Welcome, AL. Nice to see you
Thank you.
again here.
It's
Is
nice
it,
to be
by the
here.
way, yeah. By the way, everyone, it's the second time AL's been on my podcast, so I'm thrilled to have her on again. So, how's things going, AL? How's writing going? How's life?
It's been pretty busy. I'm getting ready to release start the pre-order for my second book. That's been a little
Right.
bit pushed behind. It was supposed to come out last month the pre-order was supposed to start last month, and um, that was too ambitious. So it'll start at the end of this month, and I've just got a few tweaks to do with this side story that's coming out with it, and then I'm hoping to get started on the third book. I've written a ton on that book already. It's just living in different pinned emails in my author email and telling me that I need to start on it. So it's been crazy because I really want to start writing, but I'm still waiting for this other thing. Otherwise, I've mostly been busy with my podcast.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was going to ask you something, as you mentioned there about pre-orders. What is that? Like, how do you? I vaguely know what it is, but I only really know about it from like more like traditional publishing. So for like an independent author, how do you like do pre-orders?
That's something that I just learned recently. I didn't do it with the Lattice Scheme. I didn't know anything with the Lattice Scheme, so just kind of from the grapevine from all of the authors I've interviewed, some of them have successfully done pre-orders, and I know my mother-in-law, who is a indie author, has done pre-orders, so I thought I'd look into that. You can set it up through Ingram Spark, you can set it up through Amazon, and it's really simple. You just upload the files the same, but you set a specific release date. And so it shows all your files to anybody who's viewing it online, and they can pre-order it, and you'll see those marks go up. But then they won't get it until the release date, or it won't be printed and shipped until that date. So it's not really that difficult to set up, but you do have to have all the files done. And my standstill is there's a couple last minute changes that needed to be done to my manuscript that were rather significant. So I couldn't just upload the files and go with it.
Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, like for myself, I've never done pre-orders. I can't say why. Maybe when I published my books on Amazon, it wasn't available, but it probably was. Um, it's something I'm going to check out. Again, I like what you're saying about talking to other authors and stuff. I feel like with my podcast, I'm just learning a ton. And obviously on Instagram, on the group, like people just, oh, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm like, what? You can do that? Like, there's a couple of authors on there that are doing, I think, is it book talks at Barnes and Noble. Indie authors can just go to Barnes and Noble and just set up a book talk. This is revolutionary. It's fantastic. I've not done that, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, the two writers that have done it. I'm like, yeah, props. I think that's. I want to say it's ballsy, and I think other indie writers out there, not just indie writers, indie published writers. I think you have to be. I think you have to be confident, and you have to back yourself, and you have to go. Hey, I'm this good. This book is this good. You need this book, and then do it. That's the impression I get anyway. You mentioned Ale
Yeah.
there as well about your podcast. How's that going?
It's it's been hard to keep track of everything. I've had so much interest shown in the Who Wrote It series, and then individuals want to be individually interviewed. So it's been trying to balance things on top of that because ever since we moved, our schedules have changed. So my husband, who edits the videos, he no longer has as much time to do that anymore. So whereas we could have popped out about one or two podcasts per week. Now it's like one every week and a half. So it's things have been backing up a little bit. But I do every week I've been meeting with one group and an indie author, and so I'm on pins and needles trying to get their interviews out. And at the same time I keep getting DMs in my Instagram and on Facebook that, hey, will you interview me? And I would love to. I just don't know how soon I could get you in. And it's funny to me because I had set up a tentative goal to have an author week, but I wasn't really pushing that very much at the start of the year. I thought, if it happens, it happens. Otherwise, I have lots of material to talk about. And it's just happened so much that I am booked till August now. And that, to me, that is mind blowing. And it's a little bit of a panic because I do have to put in time for my podcast segments for my second book. And now I don't know when I'm going to do that. So it's a good overwhelm. It's a very good overwhelm.
Sorry, did you say you're booked until August for your podcast now?
Yes.
That's fantastic. I've not booked that far in advance. I'm 2 months fully booked up, pretty much until I've got like maybe one spot left in May. But then in June, I think I've already got 1 or 2 spots already booked. I think I've already got a spot booked for September. Yeah, I'm like yourself. I just find that like when I invite people into my Instagram groups and Threads groups, I always have an invite as well and say, hey, I'm just actively looking for guests. And even if like just 1 in 5 say, yep, I want to be interviewed, I'm snowed under. I've got like a file on my phone of all the writers that have said they would like to join, to be interviewed. But it's still there may be maybe 20, 15 to 20 names on there, and of course I'm adding names to it all the time. So I know I find it pretty tough at times. Like I got sick like about a week ago, and it just threw my schedule out complete. I just couldn't. I didn't have the energy. It wasn't bad, but it was just like I just don't have the energy to even look at Instagram. Never mind do a podcast, And I find that I don't know about you, but I think you were kind of saying there. But you're looking at your DMs in Instagram and Facebook, and yeah, I get especially on Instagram now. Like yeah, every day I open my phone in the morning, typically whilst I'm having a cup of coffee, and there's easily 5 or 6 messages. I mean, some of it is just like maybe somebody's liked a message. It can just be that simple. Right, good. Just check it, fine, whatever. But then there's other times my Instagram group I might have missed a full length conversation. And just for everyone out there that's in the group, I do read back and I try to follow the thread. I do sometimes try as much as I can to respond individually, but it's not always possible with many. It's not realistic to have like me respond to like 10 messages after each other. But I do like to read it and I do like messages and stuff. And I think it's a big part of like indie publishing. I want to show people that they matter. Your comment, just like your books, matters, and just do things like that. But yeah, keeping on top of it at times can be pretty harrowing. It's enjoyable, but my time schedule every week is pretty packed. I don't know what you're like, but like, just to give you an example, if I interview on a Saturday or Sunday, I'll have a day off after that because I typically listen to the messages again when I'm at school. I just have a bit more time to kind of sit down and do other things, but listen. And then I'm up against it for editing for a day or two. Finally get the episode ready, do a bit of promo stuff, publish it, tell people about it. Next 2 days, maybe release some segments from it to get, just further publicity. And then after that, I'm trying to promo the next episode. And there's very little time in between. My only day off really is like, say, if I do the podcast on a Saturday, I don't edit on a Sunday. I just leave it and I kind of do my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I mean, there's a good thing, isn't it, AL? Where it's working. It's not
It is. It's
unworking.
just yeah, you're right though. There is this crazy balance that sometimes it can be rather straining. For me, my biggest frustration has been that as much as I love supporting other indie authors, as much as I love doing the podcast and trying to interact with all these groups, it has significantly taken away my time away from writing, and that's on top of readjusting to a new state that we moved to, and so it's in a sense, it has actually killed my creativity at the same time as
Oh,
inspiring me to write more. So I'm dealing with these things. I'm like, I have to write this scene. I have to write this part of this book, but I don't have time, and I don't want to lose it. So my sticky note wall has tripled, but my
yeah.
time to actually do anything with it is like it's deceased.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I'm not as affected that way, but I notice some days it affects my reading time. Like my reading time might just be 20 minutes some days, and I try to get an hour in, which is not always possible. But yeah, it can do. I typically try, at the moment I'm just editing. Usually when I'm editing, I typically allow myself, I'll do it every day, but I will go easy on myself. I'd love to do an hour, but sometimes, because I got sick, I'm just kind of easing my way back into it. And the last couple of days, I just allowed myself 30 minutes each day, to be honest. I'd like to do more. I will start doing more. It's bizarre. I'm on holiday at the moment from school, which is why I've not got a regular guest booked, because I thought we were going on holiday, but we're not here. But then I decided I wanted to have this kind of open platform kind of thing. But Yeah, but ironically, because I'm on holiday, I have less time. And that sounds crazy, but it's because I've got a young kid. When we're going to school, because he goes to school, he goes to bed earlier. So I've got 2 hours at night to do editing or writing and reading, which to me is like heaven. Between 8 and 10, maybe 10:30, I can just focus on that. But I don't quite have that time at the moment. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you
where
know,
it
that's an
goes.
interesting phenomenon. My husband and I have been talking about that for several months. There was a time that I was unemployed, and suddenly I had all this time to myself. And because of the lack of structure, I wrote less. I got less done. I felt worse. And he's noticed that in his own life, between jobs and between school and summer. Like, when there's more to do, you're more productive, you're more disciplined, and when there's less to do, there's none. I don't know if there's a name for that phenomenon, but it's so utterly fascinating to me.
That's a good point. I don't know. I think I'd love to have. The thing I wouldn't want to be unemployed. I'd want to be unemployed and fantastically rich at the same time. Well, I could easily write all morning or 6 till 9, and maybe read and hike the rest of the day. I'd love it, but it's not like that, is it? It's not that kind of life, unfortunately. Yeah, I do think when you're working, I have to constantly think every day, where am I going to find my writing time? Because at the moment, my schedule's kind of topsy turvy, and I have to really prioritize that. And then I got to think about reading time, and somehow around that fit in a bit of Instagram or something like that. And there's times I'm fine, I'm fine. And there's other days I'm like, "Oh, no, I've just got so much to do and I'm behind." Like sometimes when I approach people to come on the podcast or when I approach people to go into the Instagram group, most people just say yes, and people don't say no. They typically just won't respond, which is fine. And most, if they want to join, will just say yes. But I don't know if you've had this. There's a few, rightly or wrongly, I'm not knocking them. They want extra information, and which is all very well and good. Like somebody been asking me this weekend for extra information. And I just said, I'll get back to you. Because even though it'd only take 5 or 10 minutes, I didn't have 5 or 10 minutes right then, and I wanted to sit and focus. And so I sent these answers back just now, and I don't think they're interested. I just like wasted my time. But it takes so much time if you've got two or
Yeah,
three people in your inbox like that. And I get it. I get it. I'm not. Listen, if they're listening and they're like, "Hey, that's me," I don't mean that's bad. I just mean, we are busy. And it seems like a
it's
simple thing,
true.
you know. But it's like that.
Yeah, and
That
it's
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 like it's one.
yeah, it's kind of funny because there's so many things bombarded like that. I found that in order to respond to them all and to give more information, I have to have constantly pinned, copied little blurbs about more information. So I have that like for advertising my book, but then I have that for the podcast, and then I have that for the different segments of the podcast, individual interview, the Who Wrote It series, and so forth. And every time I'm pasting those, though, I start to feel like I'm a little bit of a fraud because that's kind of what scammers do. And AI does that. It's just copy paste, copy paste. And even though it's written all by me and it is the same information, I'm like, huh, isn't that the irony that as real people, we're so busy sometimes that we have to just copy paste and relay the same thing to everybody instead of being organic, the same way that these robots are spitting things out.
A little bit, but I think if we had all the time in the world, and just for argument's sake, our podcast is mega successful, so we're making money back on that. Sure, we don't copy and paste. We do take more time to do things. We just do things differently. We do things more professionally, but. You just like, I got 5 minutes. I got 5 minutes right now. For example, I've got my lessons at school. Got a 10-minute break. I'm like, right, I know there's something on my phone that needs answering. I've got 5 minutes. That's all I've got. And if it takes 20 minutes, I'm not doing it. So the pressure's on, but it's. I think it's a good pressure. That's what I would say.
Yeah, it is.
It's definitely it's enjoyable. It's been for me. I don't know about you, but it's a massive eye opener. Like I feel like I've learned so much.
Yeah,
I,
it's every single person that you meet is like I listen to your podcast and then I come in and have my own and like I always walk away from those just absolutely blown away. As much as I enjoy writing my book, I'm just so impressed and inspired by these different authors and their advice. And it's like you were saying earlier in our conversation before the podcast. You've learned so many things from marketing, from writing, from drawing inspiration in characters, everything about being an author from everybody that you meet that you never know before, and you're not going to get it all from a Google search. It's this real life experience they share is utterly priceless.
Yeah, it is, and also it's real people's experiences, and like you can tell they're not making it up. Like I said before, we start doing recording the podcast, talking about the two authors that have booked. Was it book talks in Barnes and Noble? And I'm like, that's fantastic. And there's been another couple of authors on my podcast that have sent books to bookshops, or they've sent them to libraries and that kind of thing. Like Michelle last week with the hotels, and she takes books in the suitcase and just leaves them there and stuff. It's just such a great attitude, to be honest, to what do you want to say? Just great attitude towards their art, and just the idea it's not about necessarily making loads of money. It's about validation, getting your ideas out there, standing up to be counted, not being ashamed, not being afraid to do these things. And yeah, look, I can't even tell you now. Why did I start my podcast? I can barely remember, because it's insignificant. Like now, it's all about learning from other authors for me and listening, to be honest.
Yeah, I completely relate to that, and it's being an author is an art. And that's the thing that I keep drawing from all of these different authors. It's a different art form for every single one. There's similarities you can draw across from them, such as where they get their inspiration from, things that have influenced them, what they want to do as an author. But anytime that you ask them, how are you marketing yourself, and what is life like for you as an author? What does it mean to you to be an author? Just, it's different. It's nothing but pure art. The way that they live their lives is authorship. And I'm not quite sure that you could put a single definition on that. So that's why I named my series What is an Author? Because what is it? You can't answer it across the board.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I think there's probably times in my past where I've said, yes, I'm an author. And there's probably other times I say, I don't know if I am, because I think when I was almost like secretly writing, after I'd finished the Jack Strong series, I was doing different books. I was just writing. I got sick of getting rejected by agents and sick of telling people about it as well. Yeah, I got rejected again. But I kind of feel with the podcast, it allows me to come out, so to speak, and just be a bit more like these other writers, just a bit more bold and go, yeah, I'm an indie writer. So the difference between me and you and getting published, I think a lot of the time, is a huge dollop of luck and maybe knowing the right person at the right time. That's not to say everybody does that. I don't think that's true. But I do think you need a bit of luck. For example, I was like, I'll check out, I write, the Jack Strong series. It's like middle grade sci-fi. I was like, I'll tell you what, I'll just randomly check on Amazon, on my Kindle, middle grade sci-fi. There was nothing that was traditionally published, nothing. At least that's just the list they give me, of course. And I said, oh, right, yeah, I am up against it then, because they look at the comparative titles and go, no, nothing sold well, but I think it can become a bit, repetitive, going like that. What is your take on AI? So when I say AI, we mean AI in the writing and publishing industry. I think we'll stick to that for time being, I think.
I think when it comes to AI, I look at it as a spectrum. All technology can be used for good or bad. It's how you're using it and why you're using it. My first acquaintance with it in the author community was when I started Instagram. There was somebody who wrote AI books who was getting significantly bullied. And I defended that person because while I'm not okay with AI-written books, I don't think it's ever okay to put down another person and to, crucify them for using it. That makes us very inhumane towards one another. But to me, it's every time that I have read an AI written book or an AI edited book, which to me is very obvious because of the extensive work I've done with AI, I can't stomach it. It all sounds the same. It's written rather terribly. If you read it out loud, it's either over dramatic or it just doesn't sound like a human writing. And it's been a little bit of a struggle with that on my podcast as well, because I have interviewed a couple indie authors who have very evidently used AI in their writing, and I haven't called them out
Okay.
on it because that's not my job as a podcaster. It's it's really sad because when I meet them in person, they have these incredible ideas. They are these wonderful people. And I'm thinking in my head, why are you using AI? You could write this better than that book was written. I know it. Why don't you know it? Or maybe there's a time thing. I don't know. But that's the thing with AI is because it is a spectrum. Some people use it because they don't have time. And they have these wonderful ideas and they have all these self-justifications for using it. And some of them are really quite good. And then some of them are really quite lazy. That it's one I heard the other day was AI puts to words what I can't get out of my head. And I'm like, while I understand that you might need a little push or help to learn how to do that, it's much more empowering to learn how to do that for yourself than have a machine do it your entire life. Kind of like, riding on training wheels instead of learning how to ride the two-wheel bike. You pick your level of difficulty, you pick your level of empowerment. AI can help you to get there if you really are intending to become your own author. But if you're just using it because you don't intend to improve and learn those skills yourself, to me that is just kind of morally wrong. So I try to weigh it on a case by case basis. I wouldn't inherently say that AI is the worst, don't touch it. I wouldn't say that AI is the best, you should use it all the time. I think there's just proper use that needs to be understood.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I think the idea of like using it to write books, or write, shall we say, write your own book. You've got an idea randomly coming to my head now. Western romance. You can't write that book. AI, do it for me. I mean, I get it. You want to. It's a shortcut, right? Okay, it's a shortcut, whatever. But for me, the fun thing, the challenging thing about writing is you've got this idea, and a lot of my ideas they start out quite vague. I think Stephen King said this. Like sometimes he gets ideas, and it's like, right, man wakes up in a forest at night, doesn't know who he is, and he doesn't know anything else about the book apart from that premise, and then he starts writing it. And for me, writing is about you've got this vague idea, and as you're writing it, each word just it pixelates it until it's clear. That's the idea, and I think it does take practice. That there isn't. I don't really think there's a shortcut to becoming. If I say a successful writer, I mean a good writer. You can be successful and not be a good writer, but I mean a successful writer where your work stands up, maybe to yourself first of all. If you read your own book, say 10 years later, and you go, oh, hey, this is it's pretty good. It might not be amazing, but you're pretty good. That to me that is some kind of success. But if you read it and it's like, oh, this is AI written drivel, I mean, I on my podcast on Buzzsprout, I trialed last week. There's like a an AI co-pilot, and it's in the editing phase, and it says, try it for free. Okay, I clicked on it, and what it does is it gives you the podcast title. What's it? It gives you the podcast title. It writes the blog for you, and it writes the summary for you, the summary of the episode. All three of them were absolutely garbage. I'll be honest. Like even a title. So just go back to the easiest thing. Was just this isn't what we discussed in the podcast. And I was like, yeah, you know. So the whole thing got thrown out. I mean, listen, would I have used it if it was really good? Right now, I can't honestly tell you if I yes or no. I'd like to say no, but it wasn't like that. I'm not in that parallel universe, to be honest. I think a curious one, the one I'm thinking about a lot at the moment. I'm not in the scale of AI. I'm anti AI in writing on 2 or 3 out of 10. Where I'm open to AI is like the nitty gritty stuff with the publishing process where you submit to an agent and you might want to get your letter proof to something. I get that. Some people are dead against that. I get it, but I also get that there's a very fine line between getting accepted and being rejected 150 times. And I get it if you write a bad query letter, and you could spend lots of time doing it, but you kind of want to spend the time writing. So I'm open to that. I'm
Mm.
open to things like that, synopses and stuff, and just helping you a little bit. Because it's a listen, I'll hands up say to everybody out there. I've in the last 10 years of submitting to agents, I've always found like synopses difficult, blurbs, elevator pitches. This is where like you're a writer, and then maybe you're a writer first, editor second. Things like marketing and blurbs and stuff. That's not your job. That's the job of someone else in the publishing company. I always thought it was a bit disingenuous to expect writers to just come up with an inch perfect elevator pitch, for example. Well, if you were great at elevator pitches, you'd be in sales, are you? Most writers aren't. And so I find it's a bit disingenuous to expect writers to be really good at these things. And I suspect what probably happens with traditional publishing, it just effectively recruits people who are very good, rightly or wrongly, at putting together these packages. And so I suppose my take on AI is if it can give indie writers a bit of help on these occasions, I wouldn't say I'm all for it, but I understand it and I wouldn't condemn someone for yeah, I wrote my book, I edited it, I sent it off, did all these things, and then me and an AI wrote for example, a query letter. I'm like, yeah, okay, fine, fair enough. You want to save your time? Yeah, totally get that. To be honest.
Mm.
What do you think about that?
I think so. As you're speaking, the thing that comes to me is honesty. That's the core of it. Is are you being honest with yourself? I can write this. I have tried. I've tried my best, and I really need that little bit of help because if you do, to me, AI is meant to fill in those gaps. Like I have used AI for transcript writing several times in my profession as a health coach because sometimes I don't have the time to type up all my notes, but that being said, if you don't read through it and edit it yourself, you'll find that
Yeah.
many times over it misses critical things or it does write garbage. When it comes to query letters, I think it's good to type up a query letter to pass it through an AI and say, okay, this is the criteria this agent is looking for. Give it very, very specific things. You have to give the very specifics, otherwise AI will just praise you for it. But if you say, this is specifically the genre they like, this is what they're interested in, how well does my query letter do, where can I improve, and it gives you that feedback, you can very much use AI to tutor yourself into being a better writer, to getting that perfect query letter. To me, that makes sense. And that's usually what I counsel when people insist they need to use AI to edit. You have to be very, very specific. You have to read over it. You have to double, triple check. You have to make sure to give it those, emotional instances that, this paragraph, it might sound like this, but it's supposed to be more of a thriller. It's supposed to be more of a this.
Yeah.
And then double check the words it's using so it's not repetitive. But it really is just that. Is it filling in the gaps or is it doing the work for you? Have you done everything you can? Because if you honestly have, to me, that is justified because you're absolutely right. Authors are not marketers. We're not professional marketers. We have AI run ads on Amazon, the algorithms and Instagram, all those sorts of things. That is run by algorithms using AI. So it doesn't feel as wrong to me to say I'm going to have AI do my marketing for me, while I'm going to organically write the book and pitch everything else that I can. It just fills in those gaps. That makes sense to me. It reminds me of a previous podcast that we had, and you discussed that traditional publishers have this team and indie authors don't. Sometimes AI can be a little bit of that team because we can't do everything ourselves. That makes
Yeah.
sense to me. And like yourself, I'm not saying go ahead, use AI, I'm all for it, but yeah, it's with that honesty thing, I do think there's a place for it, and I am for using it where it's appropriate. I'm against using it where it's not.
Yeah, I totally agree, to be honest. I think it kind of leads into something else I was going to say. I think it's part of it. Sometimes the way that the debate is framed is like, you don't use AI, you're pure. And like and that listen, that might be true for indie publishers. It might be true. It's probably more likely to be true, to be fair. But once you go into traditional publishing, at the moment, for the last certainly the last 10 years, I think there's a lot more input from other people in the publishing process. I mean, editing, just editors, for example. But then you get the sales team input. The book cover is not designed by the author. Of course, it's that they pick they'll flick through a few designs and pick the right one. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I think that's probably the best way. But that's not a completely independent process either. Now, I get the argument. Yeah, but that's a real person. Yeah, sure, I get that. But they're a very expensive person, and maybe even an expensive company. That one we talk about sending books off to editors, but the traditionally, published authors, the editors they use are, we're talking, maybe dollars, something like that. It's very expensive. I can't afford that. No way am I doing that. Not when you're an indie author and you might sell, yeah, I sold one book today. It's not realistic. And I do think at times that part of the equation or the debate needs to be a bit more understood. I also am going to say in children's book publishing, there is a lot of fake writing by celebrity authors at the moment. And it does seem to be, maybe thankfully, it's not good for children's authors, but it seems to be stuck in the children's author sphere at the moment. Don't quite know why, but it hasn't really gone out of that. But Madonna didn't write the book. It used to be in the UK, like, they'd have like sports people's autobiography. Everybody knew that somebody else wrote it for them. But now, like, you've got writers that go, right, look at me. I've written this book. Oh, this is my, my children's, series or whatever. And that's very disingenuous. And maybe it would be better to say, name of the first famous person and such a person. That would be more honest, to be honest. And that is really bad in the children's publishing sphere right now, to be honest, I'd say.
Yeah, I have noticed things like that, and it often makes me wonder how many of the other industries, creative-wise, are being influenced like that. Music is taking a hit by AI. I do know that. There's a lot of AI music. A lot of it that's actually used on Reels in social media, and people don't realize
Okay.
that even as they might be posting a reel about I'm anti-AI, I won't put it on that, but the song they're using has been written by AI. And so
I
it's,
didn't know.
there's a lot of things against it that we are too black and white, I think, in this I'm against AI, but I'm not going to actually like deep dive into every little bit that it's used in. I mean, in all reality, the argument is against the recent generative AI. We've been using AI for years. Google is AI. Grammarly is AI. When you do a spelling check on Microsoft, it's all AI. It's none of this is actually new. And yet everybody's like, I have never used AI. Well, I don't believe that. If you're using any software to write something and to spell check, you have been using AI. So it's, it is a sticky cloud that's, like you're saying, we have to take more of a look at it instead of just pointing it out. But at the same time, trying to be authentic about that, saying that, yes, I use AI and this is where I give it or use it and this is where credit's due, still runs us into the problem of the extremists who are like, oh, you're a terrible person now. I'm going to slander you. I'm going to make sure everybody blocks you. And, it can be self-defeating. So it's difficult to want to, help people to be authentic and to be honest and to learn how to properly use AI and to be, honest about using it if that means they're going to get backlashed and utterly destroyed. Where's the balance? How do you navigate that?
Yeah, sure. I think it's just one of those that aspect of the debate where it seems to be very, like I say, very purist. You have a completely for, a completely against, and listen. And again, like the completely for it, I completely disagree with them. Like they're way too comfortable with writing say 100,000 words, and then I'll give it to the AI and say make it 50,000, and they're like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, no, you shouldn't do that. But again, going back to what I said before, there's published writers out there. They're not editing their own books anymore, and you can see like how like if you're following certain series, the quality drops off towards the end. Why? The writer's not editing anymore. So if you're not editing, you're not getting better as a writer. So all they're doing is writing pure plot, and someone else is editing it, and over time they just start to decline as writers, to be honest.
Brian,
How's it going?
Yeah, it's
it's
good.
going.
We're just ankle deep. No, we're neck deep in talking about AI. as in
Oh,
AI in publishing. We're going to
yeah.
move
I
on to
mean,
marketing soon, so.
AI is starting to affect everybody, really.
Yeah, I think I was just going to say there, it's not a binary choice. People, like, if you're writing a book, let's just say you're being completely pure, you're writing it in a notebook, notepad, whatever, and you want to check something, do a bit of research. As soon as you open any search engine now, it's got AI in it. Everything's optimized, so it's we are using. I think with editing I think it's in almost every program that you'll be using on a computer right now. I don't know much about what's that. Is it Google Drives or Google Docs? Some people are writing on at the moment. Because I just use Word, so I don't know. But I suspect that's probably got AI on it as well. So yeah, it's kind
It
of
has a
interesting.
feature. I believe like you have an option of adding Google Gemini to the side of it to check through,
Oh,
but it does use just regular spell checks, just kind of like Microsoft.
yeah. I mean, like spell check. How close is that to AI? Especially these days. I get it. Maybe in the past it wasn't, but it's like somebody said to me on Threads, "It's not AI, it's an algorithm," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's it's like the algorithm is the grandfather, sure, but like you can't." This is the problem with technology. It's like you're trying to it's like spaghetti. You're trying to untangle bits, and you can't because it's all enmeshed. AI comes from the internet, and if all these things kind of are at play. I've listened to writers that have said, Stephen King says it and Neil Gaiman says it, and I don't agree with them, but they're great writers. That you can only truly write by writing in a paper notebook. And Neil Gaiman uses a fountain pen, and so it's like from their perspective, we're all charlatans, rightly or wrongly. And so it's easy to kind of when do you decide to kind of, raise the drawbridge, so to speak? There's always going to be somebody that says, nope, that's not writing. You know. Maybe since Ryan's here, we can just move on now to like another like topic. I was talking to AL right at the start about book marketing because I'm just hearing so many great like ideas and schemes for book marketing at the moment. Ryan, I'd love to hear some of your ideas if you don't mind. I know you send books out to libraries, I think.
So, I mean, I spend a lot of time marketing. I've send books to bookstores. I do a monthly newsletter where I give a free author and two business shout out. Seems like I live on social media these days, just trying to keep up with everything, but constantly posting or making reels or something like that. I'm always looking for ways to like forums, and podcast. I was on her podcast as well, so I'm always trying to, it's like a never-ending cycle. It seems like these days it's really challenging for indies. We've got a little bit do all of it, and then we've got to be creative in the marketing as well and try something new. So I'm always just trying to put my stuff out there, whether people read it or not or buy it. It is what it is, but at least I'm putting myself out there. So
Yeah. AL, any
Yeah.
any any take on this?
So it's an interesting topic. I have a trial reel that's been running about social media marketing. Statistically, I don't. I was recently on the Cochrane Entertainment show, and I did mention that statistically, social media doesn't sell books as much as people think it does, and that is true. There's a lot of data that shows that selling direct on your website, selling through newsletters, much more powerful, especially if you do Amazon ads, things like that, than social media. For
Okay.
me, I never use my social media to sell books. I do occasionally run an ad just out of curiosity to see will this happen, and I do use Threads to put things out. But really, the biggest powerhouse for marketing for me has been e-newsletters, using like Free Readsy or the Fussy Librarian. I was gonna say messy. The Fussy Librarian is a fantastic one. The game changer for me was BookFunnel. I'm a huge, huge book funnel lover. If you pay $200 a year, you're able to get people onto your newsletter. And that's where the power is, your newsletter, just sending that out to different readers and keeping them up. Giveaways as well, having a free chapter, a free book for
Okay.
your newsletter, huge. But BookFunnel also puts these group promos that I absolutely love, that you can be put into someone else's newsletter, you can get people into yours, you can get people to just download your book. And if you have something at the end of your book that says, follow me, review, join my newsletter, they do. And it's just fantastic. I've been seeing reviews popping up now for my book because of that. So it's, for me, BookFunnel is a huge one. But there's also different things you could try, like NetGalley, Book Bounty, all sorts of ways to advertise. And for me, it's getting your face anywhere outside of social media, to me, is going to be more effective, because with the socials, people see you a couple seconds, they like your book is entertaining, you are entertaining, but do I feel like buying? No, I feel like doom scrolling. They're always going to doom scroll over reading you, the majority of the time anyhow.
Yes, fair point. Now I was checking some of my stats for Instagram, and yeah, the doom scrolling. Do you know? Yeah, Instagram or social media. What do I think? I like it not so much to try to sell my books, because I think there's only so many times I can say, "Hey, this is what it's about. Buy my book." I use it just as an outlet for myself, and just I try to sell the podcast, want of a better word, but it's free. So I noticed that when I release those, the videos, the segments from the podcast, they always get, it's quite a low number, but they always get extra downloads. Little things like that help.
Mm-hmm.
I personally like what we're doing now, just meeting other writers, and when I can, I buy books, or with Amazon, I download samples sometimes, and then I'll read the sample, and then if I like the sample, I'll get the book. And I try to do things like that. Hopefully, people do that with me, but I don't mind if they don't. They don't. And trying to sell myself as a writer a little bit, but I do love the newsletter idea, actually, and it's something I've been thinking about, like maybe doing like one a month, just to kind of update people and what I'm doing as a writer, like what am I writing, what am I editing and stuff, beyond just talking about it. And I think it's good to just keep trying different stuff, to be honest. And if it doesn't work, that doesn't work. Just try something else. It is hard as an indie writer, because you're there's lots of writers, there's lots of books being published, and you're on this little island of anonymity, and you're just trying to like get people in. So yeah, I do plan to approach some bookshops at some point, or libraries. One of my problems is with Jack Strong. Jack Strong is for young readers, and I found it really difficult to get young readers to read it. I just don't know any. So I need to try to like do a bit of research. Maybe there's libraries in the UK that are focused on young readers, and we'll try to get them some books, and we'll see what happens. So it could be good. Hopefully, will be good. Um, but yeah, marketing, it's one of those things, it's a never ending, like you're falling down a hole. You can just keep trying
Yeah.
things, and it's. I mean, Ryan, you mentioned about you're always like engaging, always on social media. Sometimes I need to take a break, like, like I try to
No.
release it. Sorry, Ryan.
I said, yeah, I know it can be kind of overwhelming, exhausting, and here lately it seems like I'm failing. I feel like I'm failing, at least, because I'm not active as much as I want to be. But any holidays, or like I'm sending my newsletter, and when I send my newsletter, I don't use BookFunnel. I've heard about BookFunnel. I didn't know it did everything like that, like AL was saying, which is cool. But I send my newsletter manually in email, to about a
Okay.
thousand people, and then I put it on LinkedIn. So
Wow.
it takes like 3 days to do this. It's very time consuming. Or if there's like events, I kind of lack on social media, just because I'm traveling, or stuff at home and that kind of thing.
So Ryan, you got 1,000 people on your it was on an email list.
Well, I have a book, so I got a book that I designed off Vistaprint, and then people just put their first name, last name, and email. And then everywhere
Oh,
I go, I just lay the book out and tell them about my newsletter and have them sign up. But
right.
I do believe that's the best way to engage, like she said, because it's a continuous, direct communication. once a month or however. Some people do it every 2 weeks, but it's that, constant connection that they're going to see. And then you can put like, hey, here's my new stuff, or here's where I'm going to be at. Or I do like cooking recipes or fun facts or just something to make it, a little bit fun. And not like another email, I guess you'd say, because people get so many emails. So you got to make it engaging where people want to read it and look at it. And then, it is that once a month where they don't got to do the doom scrolling or plow through all the different social media things out there to try to find what you're doing. It's just right there, nice and clean and fit package.
Hey, Dad. That Ryan's kid.
Yes. Yeah, is my younger two. I've got a oldest son that'll be 16, and then my younger two are 6 and 7. So it was the 6-year-old. Even though I told him, hold on.
It's okay. No, I think it's good. It's cute. I was going to say about the newsletter. Yeah, when I'm on like social media, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I think it seems to me like a good way to kind of collate everything, or even if it's just a summary of what you've been doing for a month or 2 weeks. Like, and I haven't done it yet, but I've been thinking about it. I've written like I'll have to get from AL again the name of the one you're using. I've already written down a few on my phone, so I do plan to kind of look into them. I'm just right now it's just finding time, with writing and reading and the podcast.
Yeah, I'm always impressed by those who can get out to libraries and book events, because I know I'm in a brand new place and nobody knows me around here, but to me it's like I don't even know how to get into a bookstore. Like, I know I can Google it and they say just present it to so and so, but to me I'm like, it's not just that that's intimidating, it's that does that really work? I don't know, because like I'm kind of on a solo island here. I don't know any other authors where I live yet, so it's there.
Yeah,
I guess it is
exactly.
intimidating, but it's just unknown.
It is.
Yeah,
A lot of them have like forums and stuff too. It's kind of power in numbers. I mean, I've submitted like 300 forums, and every week I try to do like 10 to 20 new bookstores. But like my newsletter week or traveling week, I lack on everything else because my time. There's only just so many time, 24 hours in a day. So what do you do? And my schooling's starting soon too. So, but I mean, I've been rejected a lot. And I've been told, all kinds of things. Like I got to be a bestseller, I got to be under 500,000, or I've got to be traditionally published, or they don't accept indie authors. I mean, just kind of everything. But you just keep going and you just keep emailing and filling out forms, and I mean, eventually you'll hit a few, and then it just keeps growing like that. But you get a lot of rejection being indie.
That's the
yeah,
reality.
that's what I imagine. Yeah, I imagine we'll get a bit of rejection, but I kind of figure nothing to lose, to be honest.
That's
I
a good
think
perspective, I think. Oh, go ahead.
saying bye.
Sorry, the boys, those kids, man.
Yeah, I know. I've got mine. He's in bed. Otherwise, he'd just
I
go
wish they
crazy.
would. Yeah, I wouldn't say be in bed. But I mean, yeah, what I've found interesting though is the UK. I have one bookstore in there that carries my stuff, but it's really hard to get into the UK bookstores. They're very vehemently, they like any other country. They're very kind of to the own because the margins are so so hard. They're slims. But that's honestly the hardest I've had is UK bookstore. I've been rejected by so many, so many.
I'll see what happens to me. But like I say, I think the newsletter's a great idea, and I'm gonna go down that route as well. Right, I think we can end it there if that's okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm late. I woke up later. We was up late. My oldest son got baptized last night, so it was like a
Ah,
whole
great.
3 hour kind of thing, and we didn't get home till like midnight, 1:30. I had to take my sister-in-law home, and then I slept in. The boys did, and I seen your thing. I'm like, oh crap, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. It's fine. It's fine. It's always it was more of an ad hoc thing. I was just kind of like curious. I think it'd be kind of good to do things like this every now and again, where I can't really plan a podcast and just open it up to people, and instead of me just talking to myself. So I've really enjoyed talking to both of you. To be honest, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure to be on again.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. I think AL, like, because I'm going to interview Ryan next week, but like, yeah, AL, if you want to come on my show again, more than welcome, more than welcome.
We're always happy to.
Yeah,
Well,
for sure.
yes, it was my youngest wants to say hi. Say hi. Say hi.
Hello.
Okay. Yes, his name's Luca. So I had a blast too. Thanks for having me. So again, I'll be on next Sunday here. So I'm really excited about
Yeah,
that. Hopefully the boys are outside playing.
Yeah, with yourself.
right. Looking forward to it.
But thank you for having me, and thank you for
Yeah,
having us.
yeah, you're welcome. Perfectly welcome. Right, enjoy the rest of your day, guys.